It's Sunday morning. What better thing to do on a Sunday morning than to talk about Kiss? We're kind of still in this period where not that we're not allowed to go outside, but there's nothing to do if you go outside. So I thought I'm gonna wake up on a Sunday morning and talk about Kiss. And despite what the title says, it says reviews. I don't know if I should have used that word. To me, the word review sounds kind of pompous or arrogant, and maybe critical or something. But I'm going to talk about all the Kiss albums. I hope I don't leave any out. I've got them all here and here. I'm going to give you my thoughts. Just a quick thing to get this out of the way. Some people ask me sometimes, and when I say some, I mean one, about Instagram. If you want to check me out follow me on Instagram. I'm not sure how to say that. Follow me on Instagram, Danbowski Mexico. Danbowski Mexico is my name on Instagram. It's not a Kiss channel or a Kiss, what do you call it? A Kiss account. It's just stuff. So if you want to see that, check it out. But a quick story or my history with Kiss. And I'll try to avoid using, although I'm sure I will, favorite or rankings or things like that. And also I'm not going to put numbers on anything. I think it's pointless to assign a number to say how much you like something, but I probably will use the word favorite. I got into Kiss 45 years ago in 1975. I got Kiss my first album ever was a Kiss album, which you'll see in a few minutes. It's pretty easy to figure out at this point. But I got a Kiss album in 1975 for Christmas. I was 6 years old, and I guess I could say that they're my favorite band. If I had to make the argument that they're my for one band, as you'll see as I talk about these, I didn't lose track of them. I lost not even interest in them, but they did kind of start to waver with me at some point, which I guess I'll talk about. But if I had to pick one single band as my favorite, I would say my top four. I mean, the really, really top four would be Metallica, Iron Maiden, Motorhead, and Kiss. I would put Kiss at number one. Just, it's hard, to say anything else because they were the first band I got into, and so they were very important to me. They set me on the path to where I want to go in my realm of listening to music. As a music fan, Kiss was very important. So I'm going to go through album by album. I hope I don't forget any. But all right, here we go. I'm going to start, of course, with the first one. This came out in 1974. And I'll say I had all of these on vinyl. I guess that's kind of cool to say when I had them on vinyl. But back then you didn't call it vinyl because you had vinyl or 8-track or maybe cassette. So it wasn't like this cool thing with vinyl. You bought vinyl just because that was the most convenient method at the time. Anyway, Kiss, 1974, I think January this came out. A lot of people would say this is their best album in terms of classics. And I don't mean radio classics, but Kiss didn't really have too many radio songs. But in terms of their live show, what they've played over their 47-year career, a lot of big songs on this. Strutter, Deuce, I guess, Black Diamond for sure, Cold Gin, Firehouse, maybe even Nothing to Lose. I love this record, but the same thing with, I'll talk about this, the first three. They didn't sound that good, but just amazing songs. I love Nothing to Lose. I always love Nothing to Lose. Even the instrumental Love Theme from Kiss, which was originally called Acrobat. I'm not too much of a fan of instrumentals, but and Kissin' Time, it's a cover, but it sounds like a Kiss song. Excellent album. You can't go wrong with this. A lot of bands, their first album turns out to be their best, and a lot of them it turns out, to be the one that people ignore. But Kiss, in this case, Kiss is the former. This is an excellent album. Classic. A lot of good ones on this one. Next one, Hotter Than Hell. This was in the period where Kiss, and I guess some other bands, they were putting out albums every 6 months or something like that. I could say this for the next, I guess, 6. I love this album too. A lot of people maybe retrospectively didn't like the sound of this album. It sounded kind of muddy. Some people called it like a a precursor to grunge, the sound of it. I'm not sure about that. Man, just looking at all these songs, just incredible. Maybe the only one I didn't really like on this album was Strange Ways. Not that I didn't like it. It was my least favorite. Kind of slow and plodding. I know a lot of people love the Ace Frehley solo in that album. I mean, in that song, Strange Ways. Coming Home was great. I always loved Coming Home. I had my best friend was a huge Kiss fan like me, and he never really knew Coming Home until he and I saw it together on their convention tour, the acoustic tour they did in 1995, and they played it. He said, "Man, that song is great." So I think he went back and got into it, and then they played it on the Unplugged, and I think people really realized what a good song is. Mainline, Peter Criss's songs were generally on my favorite, but Mainline is a really good one. Watching You could be in my top 5 Kiss songs. I love Watching You. Got to Choose is another one. Going Blind, that was one I think that another one that people maybe didn't really appreciate until the Unplugged era, around 95, around there. And I think they've still, to this point, in their live full concerts, I think only played it once, and that might have been on a Kiss cruise or something like that. I don't think they played it in an actual proper Kiss show in an arena or something like that. All the Way is another good one. I always thought that would have been a great song. I think they've only played it 2 or 3 times live. And I think those were all on the 2004 tour. I'm going to say this for everyone. It's an excellent album. Hotter Than Hell. Next one, Dressed to Kill. You know what? It's an excellent album, Dressed to Kill is. This was 1975. Man, I love every song on this album. Getaway, Peter Criss. That might be my favorite Peter Criss song out of all of them. He always had an album that he sang on each song. A lot of ones on here, you could say this maybe for all of these albums, that they never really played live. Or, they played them maybe at the time but didn't continue. Lover All I Can would have been great live. Room Service, they played that live on the 96 compilation reunion album. I guess I'll talk about that later. Rock Bottom, the acoustic guitar intro to Rock Bottom is maybe one of the best acoustic guitar intros ever. Ladies in Waiting, anything from ABB. She, I love She. She, again, is one of my very, very top Kiss songs. What else can I say about this one? It's fantastic. It's excellent. Now, this, after Dressed to Kill, they did this one, Alive. This is the one that I got first, that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. This is the first Kiss album, the first album I ever got in my life. I got this for Christmas in 1975. This year will be 45 years that I got this album. If I hadn't got this album, I maybe wouldn't like, or wouldn't have liked later, wouldn't have liked, all the bands that I got into when I was really young, about 10 years old, AC/DC and Van Halen, Black Sabbath. I probably can owe that to this album, and a little bit later, Metallica and Iron Maiden. I didn't know anything about music. My parents used to play Elvis in the house and some 50s and maybe 60s songs. But this was my first rock album. My aunt gave this to me for Christmas in 1975. I don't remember. I don't think I'd ever heard them before. I unwrapped it from Christmas and looked at it, and I thought, okay, I didn't know who they were. I didn't ask for it. I guess my aunt bought it because they were very popular at the time, and she thought I would like it, and she was right. I know this album, and I know there are a lot of people too that know this album front to back. I know every little guitar lick, every drum fill, all of Paul Stanley's raps. I just know it as if you would, I don't know, like an actor knowing his lines in a movie. I know this album flawlessly. I've listened to the whole thing front to back. I have no idea how many times. Hundreds probably. I've had it 45 years, so a lot of times, and individual songs, many more than that. I will say every song on this, obviously they culled it from the first 3 albums. Every song on this album is better than the studio versions. As I said, I think those first 3 albums didn't sound that good. But now this one, and I know it's not live, or not completely live, that's all right. Every single song, to me, these are the definitive versions of all these songs. Even the drum solo in 100,000 Years. Man, you know, that song is, it says here it's 12 minutes and 10 seconds. And a good part of that, maybe 7 or 8 minutes, is a drum solo and Paul Stanley, you know, getting the audience, you know, stand up for what you believe in, rock and roll. I know every word of that. I know it's the only drum solo I think that I listen to again and again and again. Maybe because I was a kid, but even as an adult now when I listen to it, I can't skip through it. I don't skip to the next song. I always do it. I could make the argument this is my favorite album ever created in life by any band, which is kind of funny to think that I started here and the thousands of albums I've got in the last 45 years don't live up to this, but that's the standard that I hold this album to. I love it, and I've got the down here in the corner. I don't know if anybody can see it. I've still got my original album, my vinyl copy of it. I didn't want to get out. It's the way I have it displayed here. It's kind of hard to put it back the way I like it, so I left it there. But it is in one of my other videos of the 10 albums that had the biggest impact in my life. I showed it. It's all beat up and it's in terrible shape, both the sleeve and the records. But Kiss Alive, maybe the best ever. So everything after Kiss Alive was new. I went back and listened to those first 3 years after I had Kiss Alive. But the next ones, I did listen to these in the order that they came out. I don't know, I doubt I was buying these on the release day like I did, you know, when I was a teenager. You would go to the record store on the day that albums were released, which used to be on Tuesdays, and you used to buy them on the day they came out. I don't think I got these on the day they came out, but I did get them when they were the new current albums. Next one up is Destroyer. Again, I don't even know if at the time when I was a kid, at this point when this came out, I guess I was 6 years old, I didn't know if one was any better than the other. It was all Kiss and it was all good to me. I think a lot of people would also say this would be the best Kiss album ever. I think this is their signature album. It's not quite my personal favorite, although I love it. But, you know, Detroit Rock City I don't know if they've ever played a show without playing Detroit Rock City. God of Thunder, which, you know, became Gene's signature song. I never liked it that much. I liked it, but not as much as I think a lot of people did. I remember when I was a kid, I loved Flaming Youth. I still do. I listened to this album yesterday. I listened to the resurrected version yesterday, which actually sounds, I would say, even better. It sounds just fuller and richer and more bombastic. And I still love Flaming Youth. I don't know if I think I was probably too young to be rebellious at that time, but maybe that kind of had an influence. Flaming Youth Will Set the World on Fire. My Parents Think I'm Crazy. Things like that. Shout Out Loud, another great anthem. Kiss stopped playing that, I think, through most of the 80s and then brought it back on the tour in 1989. That's a great album. Beth, I loved it at the time. It's again, when I was 6 years old, I didn't care. They were all good songs to me. It's not a bad song, but now it's a very strange inclusion. Do You Love Me? I love that song. I love Great Expectations was maybe one that I didn't appreciate as a kid. I don't know, but I love that song now. I would maybe say it's my favorite, just because you start to look at these differently because you hear, Detroit Rock City all the time and Rock and Roll All Night and things like that. You never hear Great Expectations, so you start to look at things differently. But Destroyer, again, amazing. After that was Rock and Roll Over. This is maybe the best. This or the next one are probably the two best sounding Kiss albums. This was great. This was the drums sounded fuller. I think the guitars were a little bit heavier. Hard Luck Woman, Peter Criss, is one of two songs he has on this album. Hard Luck Woman, I love that song. Baby Driver, that's maybe the only one I didn't really love on this album. Everything else is great. I Want You, Take Me. Calling Dr. Love, I remember I had the single of Calling Dr. Love, and Take Me was the actual 45 RPM single, and Take Me was the B-side. My God, I was obsessed with Calling Dr. Love. I think at that time that was my favorite Kiss song, and still is. When I say my top five Kiss songs are probably like 15. Mr. Speed was another one that didn't, I don't know why, they never really, I don't think they ever played it live. Maybe way back, I don't know, but would have been a good one. I know a lot of real Kiss, when I say real Kiss fans, I mean Kiss fans who really know the deep cuts, I would say Mr. Speed is a really top song for them. Ladies Room, I think they stopped playing that in the 70s. Making Love, very heavy, good guitar riff to open that. I love Rock and Roll Over. Now to, I guess I'll say this could maybe be my favorite Kiss studio albums. I would say any of these first 6. Similar with Van Halen and I guess Black Sabbath too. The first 6 are the ones that people, cling to. And I would maybe say Love Gun is my favorite Kiss studio album. I love it. Christine 16, God, I hate to keep saying my favorite. Christine 16 is the one that I consider my #1 ever Kiss song. I love that song. But again, I love every song on here. Peter Criss's song Hooligan, it's pretty good. It's better than Baby Driver. Even Then She Kissed Me, it's a cover. I think maybe at the time when I got this, when I was 7 years old, I didn't know that it was a cover. I saw, I guess, the credits, who it was written by. I'm sure I never heard the original Then He Kissed Me. They changed the gender. I don't know if I knew it was a cover, but I loved it back then. I still love it now. I don't have any problem with it. I know a lot of people kind of dump on this album. They sing that, they say that song brings the album down. I don't agree. I love it. I love that song. Plaster Caster was another one I think that everybody really appreciated after they did it unplugged. Should have been played live a lot. I don't know why it wasn't. Excellent song. Got Love for Sale. Almost Human was another one. I think they never played that live. I Stole Your Love is a great album opener and great show opener. Tomorrow and Tonight was another one, kind of a failed attempt at an anthem, at a rock and roll night anthem. Shout It Out Loud. They never played it live. Go figure. Shock Me, of course, was Ace Frehley's first vocal attempt. Maybe my favorite Kiss album. Next on to Kiss Alive 2. Now, the songs that they did on this were, it's very easy to divide Kiss at this point up into categories. They had the first 3 albums and then a live album. Then they had the next 3 studio albums and then another live album. And this album didn't repeat any of the songs that were on the first live album. Now, the difference for me is, and I remember, I got this long after it came out. I remember when I was a kid I lived in Montreal, and at the time there was a record store in the mall, and we used to go to the mall or the shopping center with my parents. I don't know if it was every Friday or every 2 Fridays. It was grocery night. Friday was grocery night, and there was a record store in this shopping center. And I used to go in there and flip through, and I used to just stare at this album, especially this picture of Gene Simmons with this one. Here's a little bit bigger with the blood all over his face. I used to just stare at that, and I didn't buy it. I'm not sure why. It was a double album. Maybe it was too expensive. My parents wouldn't buy it for me. Maybe they thought I had enough Kiss albums already. They thought, you probably won't listen to it. But for whatever reason, I didn't get this until, I guess, the maybe early 80s, something like that. I was very familiar with it. I knew it. I listened to it. I did have some of the singles from this. And I think at the time when I was a kid or maybe a teenager, when I, started to have some Kiss fans for friends, we used to talk about it. And I think I used to say I liked Kiss Alive 2 better, which was probably just because it was newer to me at the time. I'd been listening to Kiss Alive, the first one, for 10 years at that point, or almost 10 years or something like that. And this was new for me. But in looking back on it now, there's nothing wrong with this. I love it. But I think the difference was, as I mentioned earlier, the songs that were on the first, on Kiss Alive, and we call it Kiss Alive, not just Alive. You wouldn't say Kiss Love Gun or Kiss Lick It Up. Those songs, they just sounded so much better live because those first 3 albums maybe didn't sound the best. But the second 3, the songs that make up this album, those albums sounded very, very good. And not that they were bad on here, but I just think they didn't hit me. I guess at this point, maybe I was getting to the point also that Kiss, they were still having a big impact on me. But excellent album. And of course, they had 5 new songs on this. It was kind of a short album. They only had, it was a double, but they only had room for 3 sides because they didn't want to repeat any of the songs from the first live album. So they put they recorded 5 new studio songs, which I know I found out years later that it wasn't, they had studio musicians and everything. Rockin' in the USA, cheesy lyrics. I've been to England too. There wasn't much to do. Germany was really neat, but I love that song, Rockin' in the USA. All American Man is a good song. Larger Than Life, so-so. Rocket Ride, it was good. I think everybody liked that because it was a new Ace song. It was the second one. Any Way You Want, another cover, but I always thought that was an excellent song. So Kiss Alive 2, not the same impact as the first live album, but still, can't go wrong with it. All right, now, that is the end of me holding up these albums or these CDs and showing you, because that's all I have. Physical copies, that's all I had. I had them all in my life. I had them all on vinyl up until 1989. The last Kiss album I bought on vinyl was 1989, Hot in the Shade. I had them all on CD. They're one of very few bands I bought every single album. But when I moved to Mexico in 2006, I was limited in what I could bring. So I only brought from the first album up to Alive. The other ones I didn't bring with me. And also my wife was, or is still a huge Kiss fan. We met actually because of Kiss, which is a different story. But she had the other ones, so I thought, all right, I'm only going to bring the classics. So for these next ones, I'm not going to show them, but I'm going to talk about them just the same. And I need a phone for this, so I'm gonna just as a reminder. So here comes the next one. Okay, I'm going to continue now, and I'm going to include these ones. Maybe some people shouldn't, but I'm going to include the Soul albums, the 1978 Soul albums. Not just because they had the Kiss logo on each one, but they were all uniform. They all had the same cover, obviously, except for the faces, the same layout, the same art design. And to me, they were Kiss albums. I still think of them as Kiss albums, and again, I think most Kiss fans do. So I'm going to talk about those. The first one I'm going to talk about is, and it's going to be very quick, that's Peter Criss's 1978 Soul album. Sorry for the Peter Criss fans, but that album sucks. It's really not good at all. Maybe, see, at the time I got it, I guess I was 8 years old when I got it. That was the first thing that I ever, in my life to that point, associated with Kiss, the first thing that I didn't like. Even when I was 8 years old, I just never listened to that album. Never liked it at all. Some years later, I tried to listen to it again, didn't like it. As a teenager, didn't like it. When I was in my 20s, I didn't like it. Every 5 or 10 or something years, I listened to it. There's just nothing good I can say about it. Peter Criss is a great singer. I think he has a great voice, but his songs on that album were just not good. Maybe, I don't know if because they weren't like Kiss songs. I don't know what it was, although I'd say that Jeans weren't really like Kiss songs either, but, well, kind of. Peter Criss's album, awful. The next one, Ace Frehley's album. At the time, that was my favorite of the 4. I would say it still is. It's maybe tied with another one. But I loved Ace Frehley's solo album. Maybe it was more hard rock. I think it was probably the closest to a Kiss album. That one and Paul Stanley's were the closest to Kiss albums. Maybe it was just that I liked hearing Ace sing all these songs, but I think I just loved the songs. I loved the sound of it. I liked Ace's voice. It was still kind of new for me. He'd only sang vocals on 2 songs, lead vocals at that point. And excellent album. I loved it. Again, even the instrumental, which I'm not generally a big fan of, Fractured Mirror. I love that song. It's a beautiful song. Speeding Back to My Baby, Rip It Out, Snowblind, Ozone. I don't need to look at the track list. I don't need to look at the track list for any of these albums, but no, that's a great album. It's still very, very close. I go back and forth with Aces and another one as to my favorite. Kiss fans, we sectionalize things, or we compartmentalize things, and we put things into groups and eras. I love Ace's solo album. It's fantastic. Gene's solo album. Now that was, as a kid, I also did like it. Not quite as much as Ace's. But I think over the years, maybe in the 80s, I started, maybe in the 90s, I'm not sure, I started to really appreciate Gene's album. Now I would say it's my favorite. I think I like Gene's album a little bit more than Ace's. It was not really too much like Kiss. A few songs. Radioactive, I guess, was like a Kiss song. But he had a lot of acoustic, very Beatles-sounding songs. Mr. Make-Believe, Always See You, Always Near You, Nowhere to Hide. Good album. He had a lot of guest stars on it. I know it was a very expensive album to make, which at the time I didn't know and didn't care and still don't care. But Gene's album is fantastic. I think it's a good mix of Kiss, a Kiss style, but also, you know, a little bit different. And you could kind of see when you hear some of, I'm just going to look through it now. When you heard some of Gene's vault songs, you could, yeah, I guess you could see he was always, I guess, the experimental guy in Kiss. See You Tonight was another one that they did on Unplugged. I Know It's Around. It's an excellent song, man. I want to go listen to this album right now. Yeah, my favorite Kiss solo album for sure. Mr. Make Believe, Man of a Thousand Faces. He redid See You in Your Dreams. It was on Rock and Roll Over. I'm not sure which one I like better. I think I like them both. I think they were pretty different. I think the solo album version had an extra half verse or something, an extra couple of lines or something. When You Wish Upon a Star, whatever. But Gene's solo album, fantastic. Next, which leaves Paul's solo album. I think again, Kiss fans consider Paul's to be the best. I guess because I would say for sure Paul's is the most Kiss-like of the four 1978 solo albums. Because everybody was familiar with his voice. It was a hard rock. It sounded like a 70s Kiss album. If you took like 5 of these songs and 3 or 4 of Gene's songs and 2 of Ace's and none of Peter's, it would have been a great follow-up album to Love Gun. Somebody should do that. I think probably somebody already has. I'm sure Kiss fans have done it all. But not that I didn't like Paul's album, and for some reason I got it later. I think it was only sometime in the 80s when I got it. I knew it because my friend, when I was a kid in Montreal at the time, he had it. For some reason I didn't have this until later. It couldn't have been that late because when I did get it, it still had the poster. I had all the 4 posters. But yeah, Paul's is good. Not my favorite like everybody else's, but it is a good. I would say it's not a good album. It's a good Kiss album and a good album. So I would rank them in order. Gene's, followed closely by Ace, Paul, and way down would be Peter Criss. Sorry, Peter Criss. Next one was Dynasty. Now, when Dynasty came out, I remember very well. I remember when I got it. I bought it. I moved with my family, of course, because I was 9 years old. Or 10 or something like that. I had moved my family had moved to Toronto. We lived in Scarborough, and I don't know why I'm saying this because I don't know how many people are watching this in the first place, let alone who are from that era and from Scarborough. There was a Canadian Tire store on Lawrence Avenue East between Scarborough Golf Club Road and Markham Road, and they sold records there. And I remember I bought Dynasty there. And I think I had the single, I might have had the single first of I Was Made for Loving You, which I think had Hard Times as the B-side. I'm not sure which I got first. I don't know that I would have bought the single if I already had the album, so I'll assume I had the single first. I loved I Was Made for Loving You as much as I loved, Deuce and Christine 16 and King of the Nighttime World. I loved I Was Made for Loving You. I didn't care that it was disco, I think at the time, because I was 9 or 10 years old. I wasn't like saying, oh, Kiss are disco and Kiss sold out and, they've changed their ways and things like that. I didn't care about that when I was 9 or 10 years old. I just knew that I loved I Was Made for Loving You. But I did realize that the album as a whole did sound different. I didn't dislike it, but it was definitely different for me. Still, maybe my favorite song from that album might have been the cover of 2000 Man, the Rolling Stones song. And again, at that time, I'm not sure if I even knew who I knew the Rolling Stones. I guess I saw the credits that it said M. Jagger and Kay Richards, I guess, was the songwriting credit, because it was a Rolling Stones cover. I didn't care about that. I loved 2000 Man. I really liked Ace's songs on that album. Hard Times, Save Your Love. I thought Ace's songs were probably best. Gene's songs I never really got into as much at the time. And even looking back, Charisma, I guess, is kind of cool. X-Ray Eyes. I think, what else did Gene have on that album? Was that about it? Did he only have, no, he must have had more than 2 songs. I gotta check. X-Ray Eyes, Charisma. No, nothing on the first side. Yeah, only 2 Gene songs. Wow. X-Ray Eyes and Charisma. Neither one I loved. Ace had 3. Ace had Save Your Love, Hard Times, and he didn't write it, but he sang 2000 Man. Peter Criss, again, Dirty Livin' was my least favorite song on that album. Still is. Never really cared about that song. But so in general, maybe Dynasty was the first Kiss album that I didn't fully embrace, if you don't count the Peter Criss album. As I said, it just sounded different. It was revealed later, and again, nobody knew this at the time or cared, I guess, that it wasn't Peter Criss playing drums on the album. It was Anton Fig. Nothing wrong with Anton Fig. And I was a huge David Letterman fan starting in about 83, and I knew Anton Fig, but at that time I never knew that he played on Kiss albums, plural. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But again, I'll say I Was Made for Loving You. I loved it. The rest of the album, kind of mixed. All right, which brings us to the next one, Unmasked. This is another one, like we say Kiss Alive, we say Kiss Unmasked, maybe Kiss Dynasty, Kiss Revenge, maybe because they're one-word titles, I don't know. I remember Kiss Unmasked. I bought it also on Lawrence Avenue East, just down the road from the Canadian Tire that I mentioned, where I bought Dynasty. There was a mall called Cedar Brae Mall. I don't know if it's still there or not, in Scarborough. Markham and Lawrence in Scarborough, in Toronto. And there was a record store at the for me, it was at the far end, which would have been the East End. It was the very last store beside Miracle Mart grocery store. I bought it there. I loved it. Again, I think I guess I was aware that it sounded different. I didn't care. I loved Unmasked. I think much more than Dynasty, both at the time and now. I have no problem with Unmasked. I know it's maybe closer to a pop album than a hard rock Kiss album, but I thought Unmasked was great. It had great catchy songs. Again, I really liked the Ace songs. Torpedo Girl, Talk to Me. Let me check the track listing. Maybe, I think he had 3. Torpedo Girl, Talk to Me. Oh, Two Sides of the Coin. Yeah, Ace had 3 songs on that album. I liked it. There were no Peter Criss songs because people didn't know at the time Peter Criss wasn't in the band. He didn't play drums. He didn't sing. He had nothing to do with that album other than he was on the cover. Kiss wanted to keep it secret. I guess they didn't want word to get out that things were falling apart. But I think Unmasked is an excellent album. In retrospect, their look at that time was getting maybe a little bit too much for me. I think I didn't care at the time. But looking back on it now, obviously Kiss was a very visual band. And I think maybe the cover influenced, as a kid, maybe even now as an adult, the cover, of any album that gets your attention, and it maybe subconsciously, I'm gonna scratch my ankle. It maybe subconsciously influences the way you think of an album. But actually, I love the cover for Unmasked. I still think it was great. I had that poster in my room when I was 10 years old, and the Dynasty poster. But the look was maybe getting a little bit too garish. It was a little bit too much. Is That You? Man, that's a great song. Shandy, I was never a huge fan of. I did like it. As I said, Talk to Me, Two Sides of the Coin, and Torpedo Girl. I loved all the Aces songs. Gene had Naked City. I was never into that. I was much more into Paul's songs on this album. Again, as Kiss fans, we divide everything and we put everything into groups. Paul's songs were great on Unmasked. What Makes the World Go Round, Tomorrow, Easy as It Seems. Gene had She's So European. Another one I was not that into. You're All That I Want was good. So for me, this was a Paul and Ace album. Gene, and you could see later, especially now going back, you could maybe see that Gene, that his participation in Kiss he was getting a little bit distracted. Next one, this is another one that's going to be very short. The Elder, or Music from the Elder. I didn't get that. I think I bought that. That might be, I think, the only one of those early original albums that I never had on vinyl. I only bought it on CD. I think it must have been in the early 90s that I finally bought it. The only song I knew from that album was World Without Heroes, because there was a video for it and they played it a lot on all the midweek Metal Mania and you know, these metal hard rock type video shows. And so I knew World Without Heroes, didn't like it at all. I think back then I didn't like it at all. Not because it was acoustic, because I had no problems, as I said earlier, with Great Expectations, but I just didn't like it. Maybe also as a kid, I didn't like that they had short hair. I didn't like the image. But I never bought Music from the Elder until the 90s. And I swear, even now to this day, I think I've only listened to that whole album straight through once, which means there are songs on it that I've only ever heard once in my life. I've heard you know, many times, because they had a video for it later, and maybe a few other ones, but that's, I guess, the most polarizing Kiss albums. Everyone loves it or hates it. I think there are many more that hate it. And I think the people that love it, maybe a lot of them just like it to be different, but never got into that album, didn't care about it. I know the song titles are World Without Heroes, I, Just a Boy, The Oath. There's a song with Rose in it, I think, and I don't know anything about that album. I'll maybe listen to it this week, but I can't say too much about that album. Now, next one after that, they kind of went the opposite way. They did Creatures of the Night was next, 1982, and Creatures of the Night after Dynasty, Unmasked, and The Elder. This was kind of like the first hard rock Kiss album where they kind of went not back to their roots, but because it didn't sound like classic Kiss, but it was a very hard rock, heavy metal album. I loved, like you wouldn't believe, I Love It Loud. I Love It Loud was played on the radio a lot. I loved it as much as I did when I first heard, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I was Made for Loving You. To me, that was as good as Kiss ever was. When I heard I Love It Loud, I used to listen to it on the radio. I didn't. That's another one. I didn't get Creatures of the Night until sometime later. I'm not sure when. Maybe 87 or 88 or something. I bought it. I'm not sure why. But every time I Love It Loud came on the radio, I turned it up. I love that song. I think I recorded it on the radio when you used to tape cassette tapes and you used to tape songs on the radio. And good album. I think that's a Kiss fan favorite is Creatures of the Night. I don't like it, I think, as much as most Kiss fans do. It's not bad. I just think War Machine is great. War Machine is a very heavy song. Keep Me Coming, Danger. Of course, by this point, Peter Criss was gone and they acknowledged that he was gone. But now Ace was the new Peter. He was kind of in the band, but kind of not. You know, they put his face on the cover, but I guess he didn't plan it, or he played very little. It was Vinnie Vincent. Eric Carr was the drummer. Peter Criss was, they acknowledged that Peter Criss was gone, even I guess with The Elder. And so Creatures of the Night, I like it. Not one of my favorites, like I said, like a lot of Kiss fans, but it is a good album, good return to form. Which leads us to Lick It Up. Man, I remember, I think the first time I heard Lick It Up, if I remember correctly, the first time I heard it was when I first saw the video. I remember they unmasked, they took off the makeup in 1982. It was in September 1982. It was on 83, sorry, it was in September 83. They had this big thing on MTV. They revealed themselves for the first time without makeup on MTV. And I didn't see it because I lived in Canada. We didn't have MTV, but I think it ended up being, I'm not sure if it was on the news later or on somewhere I saw it sometime later. But anyway, the first song I heard was Lick It Up, and that was my introduction to Kiss without makeup. Now, if anybody remembers the video, they show in the beginning the boots their 4 boots walking down the street, and then I think during the first verse you don't see them, and then when the chorus "Lick It Up" comes up, then it shows their faces, and I was like, man, this is my first time ever seeing Kiss without makeup. I'd been a fan at that point for about 8 years. Man, I love that song, "Lick It Up." It was just unbelievable. I couldn't believe that Kiss was so good. And that one I did buy the album. I would say "Lick It Up" is maybe my favorite album of the non-original. I don't really think of it as makeup era or non-makeup. I think of it as more as the lineups. I would say of all the non-original Kiss lineups or albums, "Lick It Up" is probably my favorite. Every single song was great. Exciter, and I think it was 5 Paul, 5 Gene. They were all hard rock songs. I liked it much better than, and I still do like it much better than Creatures of the Night. I'm tired of the song "Lick It Up" by now, but I mean, I still liked it a lot. Exciter, Not for the Innocent, Young and Wasted, Fits Like a Glove, On the Eighth Day, A Million to One. Every single song is great. That's maybe an album that I could say at some point, each of the All Hell's Breaking Loose, each song could have been my favorite at some point. Maybe even overall stronger than some of those classic albums that I mentioned, the first 6, which some of them had maybe one song that, not that I didn't like, but that I didn't love, like Baby Driver on Rock and Roll Over, or I don't know, Dirty Living on Dynasty. So, well, I couldn't even count Dynasty, but whatever. Hooligan on Love Gun maybe brought it down a little bit. But "Lick It Up," I love it. It's a great, great Kiss album. I would say, yeah, my favorite, the strongest overall for me of all the Kiss albums. Now, I kind of forgot to mention it. I'm not going to do Killers for one. That was one that I didn't have. That was kind of a weird album. It was I think it was a European release, and it was like a compilation album with 4 new songs. I think it was recorded during the Elder or Creature of the Night or something. So Kiss Killers, I'm not going to really talk about that because I know it's not a bootleg, but I kind of see it as an unofficial Kiss album. So if you're wondering, I'm not going to talk about that. And I might get the order wrong with a few of these kind of compilations that I will maybe talk. Same with Double Platinum, I didn't mention. There's no point. What came after? After "Lick It Up" was "Animalize." Now, I remember "Analyze." As I got older, you start to develop better memories. And I remember I used to go camping, and this was in 1984. I used to go camping a lot with my family. We would go camping for like 2 weeks. And I remember, I think it was during that point in the summer of '84 when I was listening to one of these metal shows on Chum FM or Q107 or something. I think Chum FM. And they said, okay, we have news on the new Kiss album. Obviously, this was, I don't know why I need to say it, long before the internet. And they said it was going to be called "Animalize." And I had a copy, man, I remember this so well. I had a copy of Mad Magazine. I used to take Mad magazines with me camping to read. And I had a pen or a pencil and I wrote down "Animalize." And when they said it, I thought it was "animal eyes," like the eyes of an animal. Because I'd never heard "animalize," I-Z-E, as a verb. And so, because I wanted to like remember it or tell my friends about it or something, so I wrote "Animalize." And they said, and they have a new guitarist. His name is Mark Norton. His real name was Mark Norton. And they said, yeah, so there's going to be a new Kiss album I guess it was in September. Kiss albums always seem to come out in September. And it's called "Analyze" and Mark Norton. And I guess that Mad magazine is long gone, but I wrote on there "Animal Eyes," eyes of the animal, and Mark Norton. And so then I guess the album came out in September, I guess, or October, something like that. "Heaven's on Fire," again, I loved it as much as I did "Lick It Up" before that, and "I Love It Loud" before that, and "I Was Made for Loving You" before that. I loved "Heaven's on Fire," and then when I got the album, it was definitely a little bit more, I don't want to say heavier or more metal, but it was a little bit different than "Lick It Up." It was more riffy, especially the first song, "I've Had Enough," "Into the Fire." It was kind of fast playing for Kiss, like I said, riffy. That was a great song. "I've Had Enough," "Into the Fire." "Heaven's on Fire," as I said, they had 2 fire songs back to back. Thrills in the Night I love that. That's a great, great Kiss song. Under the Gun, that was another kind of fast, very fast, similar to I've Had Enough, Into the Fire. This was another album you could kind of see that Gene, and then, you know, when you heard the stories later that Gene wasn't involved, this all kind of made sense. I thought I had this open in here, Animalize. What were Gene's songs? Burn, Bitch, Burn? Stinker. Actually, that was maybe the best. While the City Sleeps was not very good. Murder in High Heels. What was the last song on the album? Good Girl Gone. No, I can't remember. I think that was on Crazy Nights or something. Not a good, not good Gene. Not a good Gene album. He didn't have too much going on there. All the Paul songs were great. So again, Kiss was, you know, kind of going up and down at this point. So Animalize, a little bit mixed. Next was Asylum 1985. Now, before I talk about the album, I'll say that was finally the chance when I got to see Kiss live for the first time ever. Asylum came out in September 85, I guess, and I saw them on that tour. They played in Maple Leaf. They played in Toronto, Maple Leaf Gardens. King Cobra opened, if anybody remembers King Cobra, Carmine Appice. I think he and his brother go by two different names. Carmine Appice, Mick Sweeta was in that band, who went on to be in Bullet Boys. They all had blonde hair except Carmine, the drummer. I liked Asylum, and looking back on it now, I do like it a lot. Again, Paul's songs were really good back then. Very cheesy. All Night, Tears Are Falling was excellent. I still love both those songs. Radar for Love, I think, was pretty good. Let me see what else is on here. Gene songs, I did love Secretly Cruel. Everybody probably realizes that the beginning riff of Secretly Cruel was almost like Mr. Speed, I thought. Girl, I know she's secretly... Good song, Secretly Cruel. I listened to that yesterday. Any Way You Slice It, another pretty good one from Gene. Maybe not, you know, it wasn't Deuce, but better than Burn, Bitch, Burn or While the City Sleeps. Who Wants to Be Lonely, another one, another good Paul song. The three singles, Who Wants to Be Lonely, All Night, and Tears Are Falling. Excellent. And then Paul had I'm Alive and King of the Mountain, kind of, I think, kind of fast songs. Kiss maybe was getting a little bit, maybe trying to go in the metal bandwagon, you know, Motley Crue and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden were huge then, and I think they were maybe trying to go, Love's a Deadly Weapon, that's not a good song, a Gene song there. Yeah, so Asylum, not the best Kiss album, but pretty good. I think overall I liked it better than Animalize. I think most Kiss fans would say they like Animalize better. What say you, Kiss fans? I with those two, the single titled A albums that came out in 84 and 85, I would choose Asylum over Animalize. What came after that? Crazy Nights. This was at the point where I guess I had been at this point a Kiss fan for 12 years, 11, 12, 13, something like it. We'll say 12. And I was still very, very loyal to them. You bought every Kiss album. From that point, I went to all their concerts. And maybe at the time, I didn't want to admit it. But Crazy Nights was not very good. I loved the song. When the song came out, the single, Crazy Crazy Nights, I love it. I thought it was very catchy, cheesy, but it was catchy. And again, when the album came out, I liked it. I think I almost felt like I had to like it. And it was very melodic. But I listened to it, I think about a year ago, and it didn't hold up very well. I'll go through this a little. I'll Fight Hell to Hold You. Great vocal, Paul vocal for sure. But again, this is just a really bad Gene album. Bang Bang You, that song sucks. That's a Paul song, but that was a Bon Jovi, clearly a Bon Jovi Def Leppard attempt at that, from me. At that point, Bon Jovi and Def Leppard, I think Kiss were going for that. No, 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 terrible Kiss song. Just really, really bad. Hell or High Water, not very good. My Way, I remember I liked My Way at the time. Another Paul song, it's, Bang Bang You. No, I was thinking of Read My Body on the next album. On the shape, Bang Bang You, I'm gonna bang, bang. I'll shoot you down with my love gun. Yeah, that song, yeah, it was kind of a, not that good. I'll shoot you down with my love gun, come on. When Your Walls Come Down, that was okay. That was a little bit raunchy for Kiss. You'll Swallow Everything When You're With Me. Reason to Live, pretty good ballad, good Kiss ballad. Good Girl Gone Bad, that's the song I mentioned a few minutes ago. Not good at all. Turn on the Night, that was another one that was, I liked it at the time. It was very melodic, although maybe a little bit too pop. It had the synthesizer. It was, good, melodic, catchy, but Thief in the Night, couldn't care less about that one. I can't even remember. If you put it on, I'd know it was Kiss, but I don't know if I would even remember the title. So again, this album was not that good. The Gene songs, again, were just not very good. Paul was pretty good. Which came next was 1989, Hot in the Shade. Again, the first single was, I don't know if Hide Your Heart was the first single. Anyway, I think it was. I think Hide Your Heart was the first single. I thought it was okay. But then I loved Rise to It. I loved that song. I think based a lot on the video. The video showed Paul and Gene putting them in the dressing room, putting the makeup back on. So to me, it was like a tease or like a hint that they were going to reunite at some point. But I really like that song. But this is another one I listened to maybe about an hour ago. What am I talking about? A year ago. And doesn't hold up very well. I didn't love it at the time. It's just too long for one. I think it was close to an hour. And it was just too long. Rise to It is a good song. Betrayed, not very good. Hide Your Heart, again, same with some songs on Crazy Nights. Catchy, but a little bit maybe too sappy. Prisoner of Love, awful. Read My Body was like Bang Bang You, a very cheesy, I think, attempt at Def Leppard, Bon Jovi style of song. Love's a Slap in the Face, brutal, just not a good song at all. Forever was an excellent song. I love Forever. It's an excellent, maybe one of the very best, maybe the #1 Kiss ballad. Forever is excellent. Silver Spoon, another Paul song, catchy, but not that good. Cadillac Dreams, Gene, what are you doing? This album was not a good Gene. Maybe Gene's worst album overall. You can't really count Dynasty because he only had 2 songs. But he's got like 5 songs on this album, and none of them are good. King of Hearts, not sure I even remember that one. The Street Giveth and the Street Taketh Away, another bad Gene song. You Love to Hate Me. I think kind of another attempt. They were kind of going with a little pop metal, I think. The Def Leppard, Bon Jovi style. That wasn't that good. Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell. Not one good Gene song on this album. Little Caesar, that was Eric Carr. That was a pretty good song. That was Eric Carr's first, I think, only lead vocal on an album. And then Boomerang, the last song, another stinker Gene song. Yeah, Gene doesn't have one good song in this album. So yeah, Hot in the Shade is not very good at all. I guess Gene, maybe Paul has said that Gene was preoccupied at that time. He had other things to do that he just wasn't into. And at the time, I didn't know that. But you could kind of, when you go back and listen to it, Gene's songs were just not that good. I don't know if it was because he was away. I guess Paul Stanley would know better than I would how Kiss's inner circle works. But yeah, Gene was MIA at that point. Next one is Revenge. And Revenge was the complete opposite. Revenge was excellent. I think another fan favorite was Revenge. Unholy was the first single. And I saw that video and I heard the song before I ever heard the album. And I should mention, Hot in the Shade was the last Kiss album I had on vinyl. That was in 1989. Actually, I think it was one of the last the last albums I ever bought. I got a CD player for Christmas in 1989, and I don't think I ever bought vinyl after that again. And my first CD that I ever bought was the Kiss, the Ace Frehley solo album. So kind of cool that Kiss Alive was my first album ever in any format when I was 6 years old. And that Ace Frehley's Kiss solo album was my first CD. I also bought Dirty Looks that same day. So Kiss and Dirty Looks. Revenge. So yeah, Unholy. I saw the video and to me it was like hearing Kiss again for the first time. I couldn't believe how good it was. That was the first video or the first single that Gene sang since, I guess, since I Love It Loud, and I loved it. They had a, you know, again, their look was not, they were clearly following trends at that point. They went more to the black leather, black and silver look. Gene had a goatee, and they looked a little bit rougher. I didn't care about any of that. I just thought Unholy was an awesome song. I loved Unholy, still do. It's heavy, but it sounds, it's a good Kiss song. It doesn't sound like Kiss trying to do something. It just sounded like how Kiss should have been. And I think really there are a couple of songs. Let me find the track listing here. Take It Off was a cheesy song, fun, but still a good song. Where's Revenge? Here it is. Yeah, Take It Off was good. Well, let me find the track listing. Oh, God Gave Rock and Roll to You. I hated that song. I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. Just boring. And too anthemy. I know it's not their song, but I didn't like that album at all. Take It Off is excellent. Tough Love was also pretty good. Good song. Spit. Oh man, how could I forget Spit? I'm gonna talk about Spit. There's another one that I can talk about a little bit later, but Spit might be my single favorite Kiss song that's not from the original lineup. So which would go from, let's say, we'll even include Unmasked. So to go from The Elder all the way to Monster a few years ago, that's a lot of albums. I think Spit might be my favorite Kiss song. I would even put Spit in one of my very, very probably top 10 Kiss songs of any era. Oh man, I love that song. I love the Paul and Gene trading vocals. It was fun. It was a little bit aggressive, fun. Paul and Gene trading vocals that had a lot of little, cool things in there. The little American National Anthem in it. Spit is a fantastic song. I'm sure nobody's watching this, but if you do and you don't know this song, although I don't know, I'm sure it's just Kiss nerds. If anybody watching this, man, Spit. And I don't think they ever played it live. They played it at maybe some of the Kiss convention shows, the Unplugged shows, but I don't think they ever once played it live in a full Kiss concert setting. And it's too bad, because Spit is, oh man, I love that song. What else? Going back to the track listing here. Heart of Chrome, pretty good. Thou Shalt Not, good. Every Time I Look at You, good. A little bit cheesy. I think they were trying to recreate Forever or Reason to Live. They had the token ballad. But Every Time I Look at You was still pretty good. Paralyzed is good. I Just Wanna, I love that song. It was a little bit cheesy with the fa. It was like they didn't want to go, the Guns N' Roses, or they didn't want to cross the line and say the bad word, but they kind of made you think they were saying it, but still an excellent song. And Car Jam 81, which was an old song, I guess, that they had recorded during the Elder sessions and that Eric Carr wrote or had a drum solo in or something. But Revenge overall is an excellent album. I really like Revenge a lot. I'm saying that a lot. I feel like I'm repeating myself. So next was Alive 3. Now, clearly, as I mentioned earlier, the first one and Alive 2 were very, kind of similar, but some differences. Alive 3 was totally different. By that point, I was 23 when Alive 3 came out. I'd been a Kiss fan at that point for 18 years. And it was good. It was okay. Maybe if it had been their first ever live album, I would have loved it. But maybe I had my standards set too high from the first Alive and Alive 2. And it was a good mix. Unholy was Unholy on there? I guess it must have been. Take It Off was on there. They put a video out, a home video with it. I don't know if it was Extreme Close Up or Kiss Confidential. I think it was Kiss Confidential, and they had kind of a live video from that tour. But Alive 3, yeah, I don't really care about it too much. I listened to it, but I wasn't obsessed with it like the first two live albums, of course. Now, continuing with the theme of live albums, their next album was the MTV Unplugged. I feel like I should almost do a separate video for this. Again, I'll say there aren't words to describe how much I love the Kiss Unplugged album. I had seen them on that Unplugged, they called it the convention tour, 1995 in the summer. They did a Kiss convention. They went around to, I don't know how many different cities, 10 or 20 big cities. And I saw it in Toronto, and tickets were $100. And now in 1995, an average concert was $25, $30. This was $100. It was a fortune. And they had it at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Toronto. And it was obviously for diehard fans only. And Kiss, they actually appeared there. They brought all kinds of, I guess, like original costumes. They had Ken Kelly's original Love Gun painting. I have a picture of me with it. Everybody knows that. And they played an acoustic concert. This was in, was it 94 or 95? It was 95. And they played songs pretty much by request. I think in the Toronto show, I think they played 40 or 45 songs or something. Not always complete songs because they didn't know them. It was very off the cuff. You know, it wasn't really rehearsed. I think maybe they had about 15 songs that they had rehearsed beginning to end that they could play and play all the way through and play perfectly. But they were taking requests from the audience. And I remember I had a big, like a piece of Bristol board or something, and I wrote, Let Me Know from the first Kiss album. And I stood up and I held it up, and Gene pointed at me and he said, yeah, let's do that one. And so they did Let Me Know. And I love that song because it's Gene and Paul trading vocals, which I really, really like a lot. And so that was a really cool time to be a Kiss fan. That was kind of when they were almost free agents. They weren't following their regular cycle that they had followed for years of album tour. And it was really fun being a Kiss fan. So that led to them doing the Kiss MTV Unplugged in New York in I guess it was July or August 95. And that, of course, planted the seeds for the reunion. Ace and Peter came back and they did a couple of songs. And then so they released the album, the MTV Unplugged album in summer, or I think May 96. Man, I loved it. Every song. They did songs that they had never done before live. They did See You Tonight, Plaster Caster, Coming Home. What else? Nothing to Lose. They did that live, I think. I think they hadn't done it for a long time at that point. I love the set list. To me, that I like that album better than the Live 2 album, even. I would say that's like, again, talking about compartmentalizing things. I would put Unplugged as one of my very, very top Kiss albums ever. I know it's a live album, and I look at those differently than studio albums, but I would say Kiss Unplugged is as good as anything Kiss has ever done. My favorite Unplugged album for sure. Nirvana is maybe second. I wasn't a huge Nirvana fan. I like them, but their Nirvana Unplugged was excellent. But Kiss Unplugged is my favorite Unplugged ever. God, I feel like I should talk about it much more, but I'll move on. Now, the next was, and again, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, was You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best, which was basically just, I guess, a promotional album for the reunion tour at that point in 96. It was maybe 5 or 6 songs each from a Live 1 and a Live 2. And some new, they called them, they were recorded, supposedly recorded at the time. They had Let Me Know, that was recorded in 1975, Two-Timer, and then I guess the later songs were Take Me, and I don't know if there was something else. Even at the time, this was just when the internet was starting, even at the time, I knew there's no way those were songs that were recorded for the live albums in 75 and 77. There's no way. They just sounded differently. Paul's and Gene's voice were both different. The music sounded different. It felt very cheap to do that. Oh, Tomorrow and Tonight, that was the other one. Which, it came out later that they had never played that live ever. They only ever played it in soundcheck. But they re-recorded it in a studio and just added in the crowd noise for those 4 songs. Take Me, Tomorrow and Tonight, Two-Timer, Let Me Know. And it was cool. I didn't like when I heard after that, they did that. Even though I knew that they didn't, like I said, they sound different. Still, it was cool hearing those those songs live for the first time, especially Let Me Know and Two Timer. But other than that, yeah, it was a compilation, a live compilation album with a totally worthless Jay Leno interview at the end. I don't think I'd ever seen that before where a band, or I've seen it since, where a band put an interview on a CD. That was just crazy. And I guess I listened to it at the time, and I'm sure I've never listened to it again. And it was just a complete fluff, I guess is what they call it. But who wants to listen to an interview? I don't know if it was 10 or 8 or 12 or 17 minutes or something, but a waste of time. So yeah, you wanted the best, you got the best. Total waste of time. Next one. After all of this, after they did the reunion tour in 96, 97. I saw that tour 3 times in 3 cities. I saw it in Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo, New York. Loved it. Those were some of my great Kiss memories. Was seeing them finally for the first time, all 4. And I don't care that it wasn't the 70s. To me, they sounded great. I know retrospectively everybody says that tour sucked. I don't know what they're talking about. I thought it was great. So all of that led to the next album, which was Psycho Circus, which sucked. I think at that point I was, I could admit at that point I was okay admitting, you know what, Kiss, give me a break. It was such a, now at the time, of course, it was the 4 of them getting back together. You only knew after, or maybe some people knew at the time, that I think Gene and Peter and Ace didn't really play on it, or played very little. I guess they sang, of course, but I don't know how much they played. I think a guy named Kevin Valentine played all of the drums, or most of the drums. But it was a clear, very, very obvious attempt at recreating what they were trying to do in the 70s, and to me it failed. Psycho Circus, I never liked that song. I just thought it was cheesy, not good, didn't like it at all. Within was a good, that easily could have been on Revenge. I did like Within. It was in the same vein as Unholy. I wanna be, yeah, Within was a good song. But then look at this. I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll. Give me a break. Like, to me, it was just a very cheesy attempt at being anthemic and writing rock and roll all night. And I think the lyrics were something like, they talked about the 4, I can't remember. The lyrics were all basically about Kiss. No, sorry, that was another song. Into the Void, that was okay, I guess. That was an Ace song. Yeah, it was okay. We Are One. Don't even remember it. You Wanted the Best. That was the one that was really, really cheap and cheesy and a bad attempt. All 4 of them sang lead. I think each one sang a verse. And it was basically like a kind of a tribute to themselves, I guess. You Wanted the Best, and just complete failure. Raise Your Glasses was another one that was like in the same vein as I Pledge Allegiance to the State of Rock and Roll. Just not a very good anthem. I finally found my way. Again, I have no problem with the ballads, but this one just wasn't very good. I guess Peter Criss got the token vocal on that one. Dreamin', don't even remember it, other than I think Alice Cooper sued them because they ripped off an Alice Cooper song or something. And the last one, Journey of a Thousand Years, don't even remember it. So Psycho Circus, for me, it was an immense disappointment. I really can't say anything good about it. It was, and I didn't even see that tour. I think just because I disliked the album so much, and even I think at that point it kind of felt like they were phoning it in. So I didn't see that tour. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about Psycho Circus. Now I just realized I didn't really talk about the live Symphony album. I bought it. I guess that came out in 90. No, I guess it was the next one. No, Kiss, the Symphony album. Okay, I'm right. I'm back on track. Didn't care about it. As I mentioned with the live albums, the first one is maybe my favorite album ever by any band in the history of recorded music. Alive 2, I loved. Alive 3, so. Unplugged was just outstanding in every way. couldn't have cared less about this Symphony album. Not because it was with the Symphony. I didn't like the songs. I didn't like the way they sounded. Maybe I haven't listened to it. Probably I listened to it once when it came out, 18, 19 years ago, and I haven't listened again. I should maybe give it another listen, but I never cared about it. Now, I guess the box set came out around this time, and I did buy that box set. It was really, really expensive. And it was really cool at the time, but after reading through the years how much actual unreleased material they have that they didn't include on the box set, it's kind of disappointing. They could have made that several more discs, or they could have made it only unreleased stuff, but I guess they got to throw something in. Although I don't know if it's only hardcores that are buying box sets, so yeah, the box set was not the best. All right, now only 2 left. So the next one was Sonic Boom, 2009. Again, I never ever once in my life, including to right now, I've never not been a Kiss fan. I always, the Kiss 70s music is probably my favorite music in the world. From any era, any bands, it's very general to say, but 70s Kiss to me is just the highlight of music in general. Always was and still is, and I would imagine always will be. Now, Sonic Boom, you know, I didn't have high hopes for it. This is the first one with Tommy Thayer on guitar, and I guess the first one with Eric Singer since Revenge, and only the second album. And when Modern Day Delilah came out, they put that out in advance of the album. I loved it. Again, I thought, man, Kiss, they're kind of going up and down. I didn't know what to think, but I did know that I loved it. I thought, what's the name of the song? I just said, oh, Modern Day Delilah. I loved it. I thought Modern Day Delilah was an excellent song. Kind of, I think, could have fit in with Revenge. It was a little bit on the heavy side. It was good. I had Russian Roulette. So-so. I'm not really too familiar with this album. Never Enough, I think, sounded like a Poison song. It was sounded like an 80s hard rock, pop metal, Poison, Def Leppard kind of song. Yes, I Know, Nobody's Perfect. I'm gonna talk about that for a minute. I love that song. To me, I would put that again. That sounds like 70s Kiss, but in a good way. I think sometimes they tried to go back and it didn't work. Yes, I Know, Nobody's Perfect. Man, I love that song. It's a Gene song. For sure, Gene's best song from the non-original lineup era, from let's say the classic Kiss era. Spit. Sorry, I forgot about Spit. Yes, I Know is number 2. I love it. It's just a fun song. It's got the real Gene attitude, but without. I think sometimes Gene had some songs that he tried to make Gene Simmons songs, but it didn't work. But this one, Yes, I Know. Oh, I love that. I'm going to go listen to this when I finish doing this video. I'm going out soon in the car. I think I'm going to listen to that. Stand. Again, just I think, bad attempt at an anthem. Gene and Paul both sang it. Hot and Cold was awful. All for the Glory. I don't remember that one. I think I'm confusing that with on Monster, the next album. There was a song called All for the Love of Rock and Roll. All for the Glory. Give me a break. Dangerous, not a good song. I'm an Animal, also not a good song. When Lightning Strikes, a clear attempt at Tommy Thayer singing what would be an Ace Frehley song. Say Yeah, again, kind of anthemic. I think not a good attempt. So this album is not so good, except for Yes, I Know, which is a awesome Kiss song, and Modern Day Delilah, which is also a really, really good one. And I saw them on this tour. That was the last time I saw them. They played in Mexico City in 2010. They played 2 nights. I only went to one. And this was at the time when Paul Stanley's voice was starting to go really, really downhill. So this tour, the Sonic Boom tour, was the last time I saw them. 2010, 10 years ago. All right, the last one. And I will not say last but not least, because that's nonsense. I don't like cliches. But I'll say the last one, as I just mentioned, is Monster. I hate to say it. It actually does make me a little bit sad. I just didn't care about this album at all. both when it was released and when I, heard it, and even now I think it's not very good. Hell or Hallelujah, I guess it was okay. And then all the songs, it's really, to me, just the same as Sonic Boom. Wall of Sound, Freak. Paul Stanley at this point was 60-something, and he's talking about how he's a freak and he's like an outcast of society. Back to the Stone Age, I think that was another kind of a throwback song. Shoutin' Mercy doesn't even sound familiar. Long Way Down, Eat Your Heart Out, The Devil Is Me, All Out of This World. I have no idea about any of these things. All for the Love of Rock and Roll. That was the one I was thinking of, as I mentioned a minute ago. Eric Singer sung this one. It was about like the rock and roll lifestyle, about how he goes on the stage and he's ready to play and things like that. Take Me Down Below, I think, was a not too bad song. Last Chance, if you played it for me, I wouldn't even recognize it. So Monster, kind of incomplete. I think not very good. I really have no idea what the real Kiss fans like me think about this. Probably not too much. But that was it. And so not too much to say about Monster. That was the last Kiss album. Probably will be the last Kiss album. I can't imagine at this point that Kiss would ever do another album for many reasons. And so Monster, I guess, was their last one. I don't think it takes away from their legacy. People, say things like that, like, oh, what a way to go out, and they did this bad album. I don't care. The how would you say it? The low quality of Sonic Boom and Monster, for me, doesn't take away from Rock and Roll Over or Dress to Kill or anything like that. And I just remembered, I forgot Carnival Soul, so I'm going to have to go back and do Carnival of Souls. I screwed up. Oh well. And I'm not going to bother editing it. Carnival of Souls, another very polarizing Kiss album, similar to The Elder. I think if you asked 1,000 real Kiss fans, the fans who know every era, every aspect, every lineup of Kiss, to rank the Kiss albums, I think the bottom two would be The Elder and Carnival of Souls. It's a weird album for me. I don't know how to... it came out in that era where I said that it was fun to be a Kiss fan. It was recorded... It was going to be the follow-up to Revenge. They recorded it. They were going to release it in, I guess, 94, 95, but then they did the Unplugged thing and the reunion happened, so it got put on hold. They released it in 99 or 2000, something like that. Which maybe influences how people received it or perceived it. I guess maybe it would have been more favorably received if it had come out at the time after Revenge. The reason, obviously, that a lot of people don't like it was Kiss was really, really chasing trends. I guess from Dynasty right through, I guess, up until Monster, they were whatever was kind of cool at the time. That was what they wanted to sound like, and so I think a lot of people hated it because what was popular at the time. I'm trying to find it here. What was popular at the time was grunge, as they call it, and grunge was very popular, and people call it the Kiss grunge album, which I disagree with. I don't think it sounds grungy. It sounds heavy. I mean, it is darker for sure. It doesn't sound like Pearl Jam or Soundgarden. Toby Wright produced it, who produced one or two Alice in Chains albums. I can't remember which ones. So I think people were predisposed to think, well, if the guy from the Alice in Chains producer produced it, then it must sound like Alice in Chains. So I think people had decided even before that it was going to be grungy, and it was different for sure. It was heavy, it was dark, but it was good. I mean, musically it was good. I'm not sure what to think of this album. I hated that they were just going with trends, but I don't know. I kind of like the songs, and over the years I've gone back and I've listened to it, and maybe depending on when you ask me, you might get a different opinion. I didn't like the approach, but I did like the result. Sometimes, I think usually it goes the other way around. Good idea turned bad. I think this is a bad idea turned, I think, pretty good. Hate Hate is what I am. It sounds funny hearing Kiss say, hate is what I am. Rain, Paul Stanley's song. The lyric was, tell me what you want me to be. Tell me what you want me to be. I can't stand myself anymore. Again, so the first two songs, Gene Simmons is saying, hate is what I am. And then Paul Stanley is singing, I can't stand myself anymore. Very, very ingenuine or disingenuous. What's the word? Not very honest, I think. But again, good songs. Master and Slave, I love. That was a very chugging. I love that song. It's an excellent song. Master and Slave. Childhood's End was good. I Will Be There was good. A good ballad, a little bit darker, but still a good song. Jungle was good. In My Head. Dun, 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 dun. Pretty good. Heavy again, but pretty good song. It Never Goes Away was very dark. Probably maybe the darkest Kiss song. But again, I like it. And the songs were longer here too. I think Kiss songs were usually 3 or 4 minutes. A lot of these songs were 5, maybe 5+. Seduction of the Innocent, good song. I Confess. Yeah, that song was okay. In the Mirror, good, a little funky riff, but pretty good. I Walk Alone was Bruce Kulick's only lead vocal appearance on a Kiss album. I like that song. So actually now, yeah, looking at this now, I kind of like Carnival. So I would say for sure Carnival overall, regardless of the intent, Carnival of Souls is for sure for me better than Hot in the Shade, better than Crazy Nights, better than Sonic Boom, better than Monster, maybe better than Dynasty, better than The Elder for sure. Yeah, so I guess I don't have the problem with Carnival of Souls as a lot of people do. I can put my phone down. Oh, and I forgot to show it. I did have Sonic Boom. And I also had Monster, but I couldn't find it. I did buy it on CD. There's Sonic Boom. I had Monster. Anyway, so that's it for the Kiss album review, if you would like to call it that. Again, I'm not sure how many people watch this. You have to be a real Kiss nerd if you watch this. And Kiss nerd, I think, is not a derogatory term. I think it's pretty good. I don't know how many people watch it, but I'll say, leave comments if you disagree, if you want to tell me I'm an idiot, because that's what people do on the internet, because I like Carnival of Souls or because I don't like Monster. Tell me I'm an idiot. If you agree, also tell me whatever you think. Give me your favorites, anything you want. If anybody has any other ideas, I am open to suggestions if you want to see this. The only reason I'm doing this is because, as I said, it's Sunday. This has been going on. Man, we're into Sunday afternoon now. This video has gone on for a long time. There's nothing else to do but to stay at home and listen to music. I should plug Holy Merch for this. Go check out Holy Merch. And if you want to stay at home and listen to music and need a shirt. Yeah, and I thought I was sweating. Gray is not a good shirt to wear if you're gonna sweat like me. Only my armpits are sweaty. I'm not dripping. Holy Merch for the stay at home and listen to music shirt. And what else? Anything else? That's it. I love Kiss, the greatest band, my favorite band ever, not the greatest band ever. And I could talk about Kiss forever. I might do some more of these going through a band's whole discography, so stay tuned if you want to do that. But that's it for me. I'm going to leave my house and I'm going to do a few things. See ya.